Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to my channel. It's that proud Black woman here again. And thank you so much for tuning in on another episode. And this time, the season finale. Round of applause for me now. All right. So I feel like I feel so fulfilled because I started this just like out of an intuition, like, you know what, I'm just going to do it a couple of months ago, and every single week after then I've been able to bring fantastic guests to you guys, and we've learned a lot, and I've been able to grow as well as a person, as an individual. So it's kind of bittersweet for me that today's the season finale, and by season finale I mean this season. So in the fall slash winter we're going to be coming back, but right now we all need to breathe a little, go outside, have fun, let's just experience the summer. Which is why I brought this fantastic guest today, because there's no other way to end this, no other way than talking about our mental health. How can we cope? All been indoors for like a year and a half. It's been tough for a lot of us. And I know if we all start to say our stories, we wouldn't live here today. So this is a fantastic way to prepare us to go into that summer, have fun, enjoy the COVID free, knock on wood, season. So who do I have today? I have this fantastic, fantastic individual, Tricia Cooper. Thank you for coming on to the show.
You are so welcome. It is so wonderful to be here. I love the show and definitely the name, that proud Black woman. I think that should be a lot of our mantras, waking up every morning. That's who I am, right? So thank you for
Exactly.
having me, Takeme. This is such a privilege. And it's your season finale. What?
Yeah, I know. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, Tobin Cooper says, yay, Tricia. Thank you for joining in. And for everybody, if you're joining us, if you don't know what we're doing today, it's already on the screen. We're talking about the topic, managing challenging emotions. And the way we mark attendance here is for you to leave your name and your comments, and rep your city, rep your town in the comment section, because otherwise I wouldn't know who came and who didn't. So please rep your city, rep your country. I'm here from Canada and Toronto, Canada. So where are you watching us from? Leave it in the comment section and we'll mark attendance at the end of the day. All right. So I'm just going to introduce you further, Tricia, so that people can know the caliber of the person that I've brought today. As we all know, from my name, That Proud Black Woman, it is a platform for not just Black people, but people of color as well. Because we've never had like platforms where we showcase ourselves, we encourage ourselves, we empower ourselves. So this is what I am trying to do with my little platform, as little as it is. But I know at some point it's going to grow. All right. So I want everybody to know that you can do it. No matter what situation you're in, you can do it as well. And this is the only way that I thought I could empower other people and also empower myself, because I'm learning from all the speakers I bring week in, week out. So, all right. So I'm just, without further ado, before I talk too much, I'm going to introduce you, and then I'm going to let you, take it on from there. All right. So Tricia Cooper has worked for over 10 years supporting women, children, and families seeking support for mental health issues and opportunities for growth. With a master's in social work, specializing in children and family from the University of Toronto, Tricia has worked in community and hospital settings, treating acute mental health illnesses and providing families with education and support. Tricia has been trained in several therapeutic treatment modalities. Some of these include cognitive and dialectical behavioral therapies, attachment and narrative therapy, trauma-informed treatment, and structural family therapy. As a partner, mother, educator, Tricia values the importance of the relationship in our lives and how our health can be transformed by the connections with others and ourselves, helping individuals solve problems, develop healthy living strategies, and feel worthy of happiness and health, all inform a passion, practice, and commitment to excellent service. So once again, I welcome you, Tricia, into our midst. So my
Thank
first
you so
question
much.
before we go into it is, I always start on a good note and I like to end on another like positive note. So every person that I've come on my platform, I always ask them one question first. Apart from everything in your bio, what is a quirky or a fun fact about you that we don't know that you want to share with us today?
A quirky fun
Okay, you're mute.
Wow, I'm so sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah. So I think a quirky, fun thing about me, and I don't know, this just might be the stage of my life. I have two young kids, and one of my favorite things to do right now is to turn on some funky music and to just dance with them. I mean, just like throw your hands in the air. Doesn't matter who's watching, and just dance. And because they're 3 and 5, um, they're always asking for it, and I just think it feels so good. So that's kind of right now, other than eating ice cream on the regular, but that's
We're
kind
allowed
of
to
the
eat
quirkiest
ice
thing for
cream,
me right now.
okay?
I guess that's not that quirky.
Yeah, it's actually fantastic because at the end of the day, I feel like throughout this period, everybody I've spoken with, dance is always one of the things that they do. So you're not alone, right? Because a lot of people, I think music does a lot for you. Like just listening to music, let your worries at least go to the back burner for now and just have fun. It helps a little bit. Then you can think about others later when you're done dancing and as you said, you have two energetic kids. I also have two little kids, 6 and 2. And yeah, they keep you on your toes all day. In fact, I'm surprised they haven't come into my stream yet. But yeah, that's fantastic to know. Thank you for sharing that part of you with us. So now my next question is, what inspired you to go into this line of work?
There are so many things that I could share about that. I kind of found my way to this work actually, Fikemi. I originally was going to do sciences. I thought I was heading to medical school, and suddenly, in the middle of my science program, I just felt really alone and frustrated, and not really connecting to my natural gifts and abilities. And I ended up actually working with young children. I ended up actually doing a degree in early childhood education. And I felt so drawn to the kids who weren't doing well. I felt drawn to their situations. I felt drawn to their families. And I started feeling really connected to um, the kids and families in the classrooms that I was working with who needed more support and help. And this resonated with my own personal experience. And I found my way to social work. I found my way to a career that combined my love and passion for children and families, and offering help and support, something different, something maybe new, and something helpful that would either help kids and parents with challenging situations, or just help families get through really tough times. So I kind of fell into it, but I'm so thankful, and still, after all these years, still really passionate about it.
That's fantastic. I like the fact that you said like it's your passion. For so a lot of people, kids are. It was before I had my kids. I was like, oh my God, children are so difficult. So for you to have that passion for kids and being able to not only handle your kids but also handle other people's kids, kudos to you on that. All right. So as I said before, like this platform is for a platform of Black people and people of color, and trying to, uplift, empower ourselves. So for you, what has been the challenges that you've gone through while in your career as a social worker and as a person of color?
Yes. I've had to reflect on this a lot, and I'm really glad you asked this question, because I think, in my education, it wasn't really something we were taught about in terms of being professionals in this field. We were taught about, some of the challenges our clients might face, but not really some of the challenges we might face as professionals of color in this field. And I remember my very first job as a therapist and a clinician. I worked on a team where I was the only person of color in a community where there weren't many clients who looked like me, and I was so suddenly aware of how I felt about my skin color. I remember, the feeling of getting new clients. And my first thought was, well, how are they gonna perceive me? I'm black, right? How is my team gonna perceive me? I'm black. I hadn't said a word yet. I hadn't, demonstrated any of the my professional qualities, and yet in my head, I was already, I would say emotionally and psychologically impacted by, you know, um, the oppression that often comes with, being a person of color in these environments. So I definitely felt, I think, an extra level of stress professionally. I definitely felt the challenge to often prove myself in these environments, and definitely with the community I was working with. But I think the hardest part was finding value in my voice, and finding that the strength to know that my color, right, doesn't negate my opinions, my values, my education. Fighting with that internalized oppression, I think, was a really, really hard thing, but also helped me gain confidence, and helped me gain my voice eventually. Um, but I think that was the hardest thing. It was a lot of internalized oppression, that I think was one of the hardest things for me to deal with in this field, because I must admit I didn't face a lot of overt racism. People for the most part were quite welcoming and supportive and open, but my perceptions and my internalized ideas of what they might perceive of me were really, really challenging to overcome.
Okay, thank you for mentioning that, because sometimes that internalized perception of yourself also matters, and the way people around you also make you feel. So I would use, for example, if you're black and you have like a website, for example, or you have a business, they will tell you, don't put your face on there. Put just a random white person's face so that you can get people to come. Don't put your real name, put something, or just put the name of the firm and things like that. Whereas when you see people from other races, they would use their name. And there's one thing that I admire about, I would say, people from Sri Lanka, because no matter where, you would see that very long name. They don't care. It's right there. You already know it's Sri Lankan. So it's something that we are struggling with. And everybody's experiences are different. What they've gone through are different. So we cannot blame people for doing that. But at the same time, some people wish to come out and, find their voice and use their voice, but then there's still other people suppressing that voice. Do that. Don't mindset, like generally, people telling you, no matter how you found your voice, you have to suppress it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such a great point. And, I know for me, I think I remember having this one moment where my team, they wanted to post all of our pictures in the lobby, right? And none of them were people of color. I was the only person, and I was terrified of this, right? And I never realized how much it impacted me when I thought, oh my goodness, my clients are going to go in the lobby and they're going to see that they have the Black therapist. And I had this thought of, oh my goodness, they're gonna not want me. They're gonna be, it was really, and then it was like, somebody had said to me, a mentor of mine said, yeah, that's the change moment where they see I have the Black therapist. And for me to look at it as a celebratory moment, not a moment of shame, not a moment of fear, but a moment of pride. That yes, it's almost like a special thing. It's a special opportunity that you have the Black therapist, and so that was a bit of a shift that I had to look at it in terms of the services that I'm providing, that it was a special gift that I have as a Black therapist you know who often could relate more to people who've experienced depression, because let's be honest, people who have mental illnesses, regardless of the color of their skin or their culture, right, can often experience oppression, marginalization, right, being left out of things. And so at times, I've been the person who's been able to relate to individuals from other racial groups the most, right? Because I get it. I get what it feels like to be marginalized. I get what it feels like to be um, the subject of people's stereotypes.
Yeah, thank you so much because it's just how you look at things, as you said, and we just have to shift, like keep pushing ourselves to that point where we're able to stand up tall and accept that, yeah, I'm the only black girl here. Yeah, I'm the only black woman here, the only black boy, whatever it is. And, own it and, rock it with style. Because at the end of the day, nobody's going to do that for you. You just have to own it, no matter what the situation is. And thank you for putting that out there. Because I can imagine, nowadays I'm trying to intentionally put things in, like, for example, if I was going to a business card, I don't mind putting my face on the business card. If you don't want to do business with me because I'm black, then I don't need your business anyway, right? Whereas you have to also look at it from this aspect. I was talking to somebody and he said, whatever field you are, there's some people that are actively looking for somebody that is black. They don't want to talk to other races because they're black. They feel like you would know them better. And that could be your niche because you're bold enough to put yourself on there on your website or your business card on whatever social media so they know, oh, she's black, I would like to go to this person, right? So we have to start shifting that mindset little by little until we get there and we're more comfortable. So thank you. I know I started with a bunch of questions, so now we're going to go into the topic of the day proper, which is challenging, addressing, managing your challenging emotions. So I'm gonna just had the your let me see if you can you still see me? You can see me.
Yes,
All right.
yes, I can.
So all right, that's great. So now I'm just gonna leave you to go from here and talk to us about managing challenging emotions. Take it away.
Okay, great. Just let me know how you can see my screen, Fikemi. Can you see
It's
me changing
fantastic.
now?
We can see it. Yeah, we
Okay,
can.
good.
Thank you.
So, without further ado, folks, I'll get right into it. And I thought I'd start with this kind of idea that, when we talk about challenging emotions, we often don't talk about, happy emotions, right? How come we never talk about happiness as a challenging emotion, right? Um, the thing is, we have so many emotions as human beings, right? And I just have a list here of all the emotions. Well, these aren't even all of them, but we have such a wide range of emotions as human beings. And I think sometimes we forget that all emotions are part of being human, not just the happy ones, right? That sadness, that anger, that other feelings like shame and being embarrassed and jealous and being afraid. These are all emotions that make us human. And so sometimes, you know, um, when we're talking about challenging emotions or managing emotions, sometimes we're often, and asking the question like, how do I deal with, the ones that I don't like, right? Let's be honest. Not many of us like being angry or like being sad or fearful. And so, um, those are what we're really talking about. And, you know, um, I have this picture on the screen because often what happens is when we're even really young and we find ourselves feeling sad or angry, right? What often are we told by parents or caregivers, right? We're feeling upset and they're being like, oh, don't be upset, it's okay, everything is fine, be happy, right? Or don't cry, please don't cry, right? You're fine, right? Or why are you so angry? Don't be angry, right? Stop being angry right now, right? These are the things that we tell kids, and sometimes we tell our adults or even ourselves. So when we define emotions, right, we have to remember that what makes us human are all of our emotions, not just being happy, not just being excited, but also being angry, being fearful, right? Being sad, being embarrassed, all these emotions make us human. All right. And so the first part, I think, of managing challenging emotions is naming them, naming all of them, and being able to acknowledge when you're feeling angry. And it's a feeling, and it's okay. Being able to manage when you're sad, and being able to say, yeah, this is just, oh my gosh, this is sadness, or this is anger that I'm feeling right now. And it's okay. It's part of being human. It's really part of being a human being. Um, and I'll go back to this last slide, um, because the idea is that when we can name our feelings, right, we can often be more present with them and find better ways to cope with them. All right. When we're always trying to avoid, difficult or harder emotions like sadness and anger and fear and even loneliness and shame, when we're always trying to hide them or push them away or smile them away, right? Like sometimes, we'll, especially, some of the messages we've gotten as young kids, we just try to get over it really quick, right? Just pretend you're okay. A lot of times when we do that, that's the time when our emotions become really difficult to manage, because we might not act like we're sad, right? But sadness is actually still very much experienced by the brain and our body, right? We might not present our anger, right? But anger is still being experienced by our brain and our body. So the first thing I'd like to share is we have to name our emotions, all right? And we have to be comfortable with all of the emotions, not just the ones that, we enjoy, but also the ones that we don't feel so comfortable with. Now that's number one that I'd like to share. So hopefully it's a good foundation for number two. Number two is the idea that our brain is really connected to our emotions. And I know, all the rhetoric and stuff out there tells us that we feel in our heart, and it's all about, our heart, and how it feels. But surprise, surprise, our feelings come from our brain. All right. And there's a really important part of our brain that, manages all our emotions. And this picture is a picture of a hand that can help us remember that our brain is really involved with our emotions. And if we can remember, what our brain is doing when it comes to challenging emotions, then sometimes it can be really helpful. Now, this is a picture of a hand, and you'll see, the thumb is kind of tucked in here, and, there's a little thing that says big emotions. And then there's the fingers that are folded over like this, and there's a sign that says making good choices. And this is a really, really simple model of how our brain works. Um, the bottom of our brain, or the brain stem, is where all our emotions are activated. That's the part of your brain. And the part of our brain that actually makes decisions is actually the top part of our brain. And they're kind of put together like this. The really interesting thing is that when we feel really big emotions like fear, like sadness, like anger, you'll be surprised what happens to our brain. The part that makes good choices actually gets disconnected from our brain. It actually literally kind of gets shut out. And they call it flipping your lid. And sometimes it feels that way. It feels that way, when we're really scared or when we're really angry. It feels like we are acting without thinking, and people will say that I did this and I didn't even know why, or I didn't even think about it. I just reacted. And that's exactly what is happening in the brain. Our emotions take over. They take over our ability to make good choices when our emotions are really big and strong, because your brain is trying to keep you safe, right? At the end of the day, your brain is making the decision that, either there's danger approaching, or there is, something that's making you really angry, and it feels like you don't have time to wade through all the options of choices. So your the lower part of your brain literally shuts off the part of your brain that makes good choices, and it makes the choices itself based on really big emotions and your feelings, right? So sometimes just this knowledge can help us cope with our emotions and recognize that our brain is actually doing what it's supposed to do, right? Your brain your brain disconnects from our decision making part of our brain so that our emotion can hopefully instinctually keep us safe. Doesn't always work though, right? It doesn't always work. Sometimes when we experience these really big emotions, right? And I think anger can be a difficult one, even sadness, fear is a really great example of how the the emotion of fear can take over, our decisions. And so it's important to know that when we're managing big emotions, that are we are disconnected from the decision making part of our brain. So what do we need to do? We need to try to find ways to reconnect that part of our brain. Okay. And so sometimes, when people are upset or experiencing big emotions, we try to tell them things like, calm down. We try to tell them things like, it's okay. We try to tell them things like, don't be afraid of that. I know I've said these things to friends and family members and even my kids. But if we think about how the brain is working, then it can be a much better way to address this disconnection of the part of our brain that really, really helps us make better decisions. And one of the ways to reconnect good decision making with our emotions is to activate our senses. And so our five senses are just the basics: seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, and tasting. And it's amazing because what the research says is that if we can activate one or two or several of our senses when we are feeling a really strong, challenging emotion, that it's amazing what happens. The emotional brain begins to reconnect with the part of your brain that thinks, that actually makes decisions. And that's what you want. You don't want to not feel anything. You don't want to experience the anger. You don't want to not experience the fear or the sadness. We want our brains, and we want to live holistically and still experience the feeling, but we want to do it in a way that helps us make better decisions on what to do with that feeling. And one of the ways is to activate any of your five senses, to take a moment and think about, well, what am I hearing around me? Okay, what am I seeing around me? What do I feel? What am I smelling? What might I even be tasting? And if we can take a minute and do that before we react, right? Then it can be an opportunity to help us make better decisions when we're managing these really difficult emotions. Some people call this mindful moments, being mindful. And I know mindfulness is a huge industry right now. Um, but this is all mindfulness really is. Mindfulness and being aware in the moment is a way to reconnect the part of your brain that's thinking with the part of your brain that's feeling. Okay. And so, I wanted to share that with you, as a way to manage emotions. Some people, feel um, like it's something that's not normal, right? That they just feel so out of control sometimes, and they just react instinctively when they experience big emotions. And I just want to say that's normal. It's really normal. But the idea is, how do you help your brain make better choices when you're feeling these big emotions? And one of the ways is being mindful in these moments and reconnecting the parts of your brain. So Fikemi, I hope you'll let me know if there's any questions or any thoughts popping up as I go.
Yeah, I
I feel
will.
okay. I feel like I'm going a little bit fast. Is the pace
It's
okay?
it's
Or
it's fine. It's fine.
okay, okay. So I think another important thing, you know, as we're talking about the brain, is to remember that our big emotions are also impacted by what we're thinking and, you know, let's just be honest, what we're watching. All right. Whether it's on social media, Netflix, Instagram, YouTube, or whatever it is, our emotions, all right, are affected by these things. And I could go on and on, you know, about, you know, we know that, you know, often sometimes it's underplayed the connection, you know, of what we're eating, you know, and what we're physically doing, and, you know, our health, our physical health. I could do a whole nother talk on that, but I wanted to focus today on, you know, people paying attention as well to what you're thinking and what you're watching, right? I know, for example, for me, you know, when I first had children, you know, I became fearful about things that I was never fearful of before, right? The just being a mom, all of a sudden I was afraid of, you know, um, getting in a car accident. I had never been really afraid of that before. I was afraid of, you know, an intruder coming in my home. These were never fears I had before I was a mom. And they may have been fleeting fears, but they became way more prominent when I became a mom. And so I started to just pay attention to that. I was thinking about that all the time, right? Um, and paying attention to what you're thinking can really give you clues to how you're feeling, right? Because our thoughts and our feelings are connected. So I started feeling really anxious and worried about things more and more and more. And then I connected it to that I'm thinking about this all the time. I'm thinking about something, you know, happening, you know, in my home, or something happening when I'm driving. And it was interesting that I was also able to connect that thought to something that I would always be watching, right? I was so into these shows like Criminal Minds and you know, that was the big one for me, right? And I realized that a lot of the fears that I was that and the thoughts that I was thinking about my own life were connected to these shows that I were watching, right? And so for me, that was a powerful way to turn down my fearful emotion, right? Um, because it was impacting, you know, what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, how I even slept at night, right? That's how much the feeling was getting a hold of me. And so when I thought about what I was thinking, and then the things that were feeding those thoughts, like what I was watching, um, I had to stop watching. I had to stop watching that show. I had to stop watching. You know, my two favorite shows actually were Criminal Minds and How to Get Away with Murder. I don't know if anybody remembers those two shows. And so that was a powerful way again for me, and can often be for individuals, to recognize that their social media and their screen time is not really helping them with some of the difficult emotions that they're trying to manage, right? Some of the people that I, you know, counsel, they might be going through a difficult relationship time, you know, with a partner. And then, you know, when we talk about, you know, how they spent their evenings or how they spent their day, you know, they're watching all these romantic comedies, you know, about these relationships that, you know, have these fairy tale endings, right? And so we're able to talk about, you know, how watching and binging on these kind of movies, how it affects their thinking, right? About their partner, you know, about, you know, what it's like in their relationship right now. And then definitely how does that make them feel, right? And it's usually not very good. It's usually not very good. So it's something that, you know, I'm hoping people can think about paying attention to, you know, when you're trying to manage these difficult emotions, is that your thoughts are important. And if you can shift your thoughts, distract them, even change them, right? Your emotions will follow. It's a really, really powerful scientific thought. And and not just scientific, it's a really great practical application, um, and an intervention to help cope with difficult emotions. Okay, so we're on to the third little tip I hope I can add here. um, Because at the end of the day, when it comes to managing our emotions, I think it's important to know when we need extra help, right? I think I've given some, helpful tips today about, naming our emotions, accepting the range of our emotions, paying attention to our thoughts and what's feeding our thoughts, right? Um, helping, making a, trying to be more aware of, our senses and how our senses can help us make better decisions when we feel emotional. But let's be honest, sometimes those things don't work. Sometimes the thoughts, um, we're not able to distract them, right? Sometimes, even though we stop watching the television show, sometimes, even though we stop, you know, following certain people on Twitter or Instagram, sometimes the thoughts are still um, overwhelming. Sometimes we try certain strategies and the feelings aren't going away, they're actually getting worse, right? And so it's really important to recognize, just like you would for a physical illness, right? That sometimes we need help for emotional illnesses too, right? I'm sure, you know, if your child or your family member or yourself was experiencing a tummy ache for a couple of days, you might be like, okay, maybe I'll drink some tea. Like if you're from my Caribbean culture, that's what you would do. You drink some tea, usually mint tea, right? Or whatever it is. You might drink some tea, you might go to sleep. We all have kind of our ways of sort of, coping maybe with a physical illness if it happens for a couple of days, right? But we all have probably experienced if we are experiencing what we would do if we have a stomach ache for a week or two, right? Or if we're experiencing a constant headache for, 2 weeks or more, right? We're going to get help, right? Usually we're going to call a doctor, we're going to tell a friend, we're going to do something outside of ourselves to try to get help to relieve that physical symptom. And it's the same thing with our emotions and our mental health. There are times where we need some help, right? There are times where we need to kind of assess that, as you see on this screen, that we might be in a bit of a crisis or struggling, right? And it's really interesting because sometimes, I know for me, and I don't know, for Kemi, how you feel, you have young kids too. I can go through all these range of, emotions in one day, maybe even in 1 hour. I can be in crisis, struggling, surviving, thriving, and excelling, you know,
I know,
all in
right?
exactly,
That's
all
true.
in one trip to the park, right? But I put this up so that, anyone, listening or watching can also recognize that if you're in crisis or feel like you're in, and I like this the analogy of, functioning on one bar, only two bars, right? Like, if we were using our cell phone, we would know what to do. If we only have one bar left on our cell phone, we know exactly what to do. We got to plug in. We got to plug into some kind of power source, right? So that we can, have full access to the power on our phone or our device or whatever we're using. It's the same with our mental health and our emotions. When we are feeling in crisis or struggling or have some really low bars, and it's gone on for a long time, and I would say, if you're feeling this way consistently without any relief, right, without any change for 2 weeks or more, then it's definitely time to get some help. It's definitely time either to access, some mental health support, or a family doctor, or even just talk to a friend, um, and really, really get some support for how you're feeling and how you're doing. Because we can all feel, a range of emotions, and we can all try, different things at times, but just like I was talking about further, or earlier, our thoughts definitely impact, our emotions, and they also impact us physiologically. So there are times when, you know, um, we need professionals to help us use different strategies, to help us with our thoughts and to even talk about some of the emotions that sometimes we don't even know how to talk about because we've been either trying or struggling with or not talking about them for so long. And so, I really just kind of wanted to leave on that note of, or sort of end my little portion here on that thought of, you know, that it's okay to get help. That part of managing our emotions is getting help. It's not about struggling by ourselves or trying to figure it out by ourselves. And sometimes I think in our community, you know, and when I mean our community, I mean like the Black diaspora, and our community. Sometimes we value that. We pride ourselves in being tough and just figuring things out on our own, and sometimes that doesn't um, work the best for ourselves and for our families, and most importantly for our community. And I really like this quote by Maya Angelou, another strong Black woman, and and I think it just speaks to the humanity of this issue, that we're all doing the best we can, right? And and that's important to recognize that if we have, you know, um, been struggling with different emotions, or if we have had times where we haven't managed our emotions well, that's okay. We did the best that we knew how. Um, and the opportunity is there's times where we've learned better, right? We learn how to do things better, and hopefully, you know um, this moment in time has given some of you some ideas on some things that you can do better. And so the challenge now is that when we know better, that we can do better. And I know for me, that's kind of my mantra every day, that I'm going to try and do better with the little bit of knowledge that I have today. Um, 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 when I know better, when I know just a little bit better about the fact that, you know, if I don't get a lot of sleep, then sometimes, uh, you know, I'm a little bit more irritable, right? And so I know that, you know, about myself. So I'm going to try and get a little bit more sleep, right? And then I'm going to be just compassionate with myself sometimes, when I recognize that, you know what, I just haven't got any sleep today and I'm feeling angry. Wow. And I'm feeling really irritated and frustrated. That is the human part of me just being human. And it's okay. It's okay. So I hope that's helpful for someone. And I know it's helpful for me, recognizing that as humans, this is kind of what we're doing. We're doing the best we can. Um, but there's always an opportunity maybe to know better and do better, as Maya Angelou um, so wisely shares with us.
Wow, this was a
And
very powerful session. It's really, really, really powerful. Like I was quite all through just nodding along and going through the slides as you go. And this particular one was really great about Maya Angelou, because thinking about it, that's true. Just continue to do the best you can. And then when you're able to, figure it out, then do better. And not just do better for yourself, do better for other people. Help people to also realize that they can do better, which is the kind of my motto now. I'm stealing that from you. It's kind of my motto now, because if you just don't know one doing better, then you're not helping anybody, and we're not going to all move forward at the same time. So when we show other people the way, this is how you should do it, and they're able to at least get like 5 steps forward rather than when they were struggling on their own, everybody will be better for it. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'm going to remove that. I really, really appreciate that. I haven't seen any questions coming in yet, but if you have questions, don't be shy. Please leave your question in the comment, and I would post it on the screen so we can discuss it a little further. So for mine, question is usually about like when you have set a goal, because a lot of people would have like a visual board or have like a list of to-do list of what they want to achieve for the day. And then when they are not able to achieve that, they get frustrated and they try to make up for the time that I have to get this done today, no matter what. Like come rid of shine, I have to get this done for the day. But then they end up losing sleep because then they're doing it way into the night, and then when they finish it, they feel a little bit of satisfaction, but then they're losing sleep, and the next morning they would assume they were going to feel better, but because you lost so much sleep, you're getting angry. So in such situations, what would you say? Like, should we just leave it and say, you know what, I've had it for the night. Let me go sleep. I will refresh and come back. Or do you think that just sticking to your list just because you want to be disciplined is better? What's your thought on that?
Great question, and it's interesting, how often this question comes up. I think especially with, I'm going to be honest, new moms, right? I feel like, and I remember being there and still there myself, that we have this list of all the things we need to get done, and I don't want to speak to anyone's specific situation, but often I have the conversation with people, about this list. Two things, right? You know, what around you is influencing the importance of the things on that list? So I ask those questions because sometimes people are like, the when they go through the list is, oh, I have to take photos of my infant, every 5 minutes, and post it on Instagram because that's what, Sally's done and Sophia's done, and so that's on their list. And so, sometimes when I talk, when we talk about, well, what's influencing the things on your list, sometimes they can talk about, oh, it's kind of like, I don't really want to do this is not really important to me, but it's kind of what other people are doing. And so it's kind of looking at their list and kind of, even saying, these aren't even my values, this isn't even really me, it's, somebody else. So so sometimes I tell people, go through the list and really, ask yourself that question: how many of these things are really my values, really for me, and how many of them are for other people who really, maybe don't make a difference, right? In what's happening day to day. Um, and the other thing I kind of talk to you about the list is, that sometimes we make all these lists, and the list is like a mile long, and and it's not really realistic. It's just not realistic. We know that we probably have, the hours in the day, but we forget about the mental and emotional capacity in our day. So sometimes I tell people, you know what, when you think about your list, you know, um, try thinking about, instead of making the list of all the things that you have to get done, right? What if you made a list of all the things that you have accomplished, instead of you know um, you know all the things that you still didn't get done? What if you started with, like, wow, these are all the things I did get done today, right? And and or got done this week, or got done last night, and sort of, you know um, build your list from a place of strength instead of place of, um, weaknesses or lack, because that's often where we're building our strengths from: places of, lack, places of, criticism, right? But there's something different sometimes. There can be a different mental approach when we first talk about, like, wow, you know what? I got 2 loads of laundry done. High five, right? and and okay, maybe there's 10 loads of laundry. Okay, whatever. But we still got 2 loads done, right? So starting that list from a place of strength, what you have accomplished, and then thinking about, okay, you know what, there's still some things I gotta get done, right? So continue making your list of the things that you need to do, but sort of boosting yourself up initially with the things that you have done, right? And the accomplishments you have made, right? And then, the same thing the next day when you realize, oh my goodness, you know what? I haven't gotten anything done on that list, right? or I still have 20 things on my list. Celebrate the things that you have done. Make sure to celebrate it. If you've only done two things on that list, then take a moment and give yourself a high five, even for just those two things. Sometimes we see the opposite. We see all the things we have left to do, and we don't take a time and be grateful to ourselves for the things that we did do, right? Because the things that we did do count. They really, really, really count. I hope that was helpful or answered your question.
Yeah, thank you so much. Because yeah, it does. Because sometimes it's so difficult to like celebrate those little wins. Because all we focus on is the negative part of it. I was supposed to have 10 laundry done. I only got two done. So there was a segment that I did for like 30 days. I just decided to intentionally like be grateful for little things. And every day I would come on camera and say, attitude of gratitude, day one. And I would say one thing that I'm grateful for the day. And it kind of helped because at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? I actually did achieve something, no matter how little it is. Sometimes it's just me waking up. That's an achievement. There's so many people that slept yesterday and they're dead right now. So there's so many things that you can do. And I was encouraging people to join me on the attitude of gratitude. I did it for 30 days every day. Sometimes I'll just do 2 minutes and I was sharing that journey with people. So that's the thing. I know not everybody's comfortable going on camera, but just find something to be grateful for every day. That's really important. So I still struggle with it a lot of times. Like even right now as I'm talking to you, the corner of my eye is looking at my list on the wall on what I'm supposed to do immediately I finish this live stream. So it's kind of difficult, but we have to push ourselves by being conscious of it. Like, okay, I have to intentionally find something to be, grateful for today, and something that and then at the end of the week, take account of everything that you've done, and you will see that you've done a whole lot. And only that one that you haven't done, that is like being stuck in your head, you'll be like, I didn't die not doing that. So I can shift it onto next week. So thank you so much for, shedding light on that. So my next question would be, you know, it's usually about, again, people of color. We're so I don't know how to put it, but a lot of people, they prefer to keep their business private. Either is mental, emotional, because they think you would look weak sharing it with other people, or what would other people say. So they're very reluctant to ask for help. They're very reluctant, to go outside of that comfort zone, even though they're dying in there. Even when help comes knocking at the door, they would be like, oh, no, I'm fine. Like the normal response is, how are you fine? So we have to start being more intentional and say, well, it's not so good today. And, actually explain a little bit more to somebody that is trusted. I don't mean like going out there and just sharing your business with anybody, but I find that even without going to a therapist, just having somebody to talk to, it helps a great deal. Taking a walk with somebody and just chatting a little bit, it helps a great deal. But the problem is, I find that a lot of Black people, no matter what country they're from or what region of this world they're from, we have it so difficult to actually open up and share our emotional struggles with others. So what's your view on that? And how can we like get out of that mindset?
Such an important point, and and it's one of the reasons why I shifted to my sense of, yeah, how important being a Black mental health professional is. Um, and I think there are two kind of, I think, answers that I could share. One of them is that I think our community has a reason not to feel safe. We have a reason not to trust health systems. We have a reason not to trust other communities with our health, because we've been taken advantage of, cheated, lied to, oppressed, right? So we've developed a thick skin, and we've developed, this kind of, oh, keep it private for a reason. And so, yes, our community suffers because of that. Um, but I think it's very important to recognize that it's a historical thing, right? That we've been hurt, we've been offended, we've been, stolen from, and so we're guarded for a reason, psychologically, emotionally. You know, just last summer, look, what everything that was happening in the United States, right? And then they tell you, or and even here in Toronto, and then they tell you, call the police. if you need help, if you're having a mental health emergency, you call the police. That's not the safest thing for everybody, right? So I think part of the answer to your question, I think, is recognizing the history, behind, what oppression does to people's feelings of safety in asking for help, because it does take a sense of safety to often ask for help. The other thing I think is that, because of how we've sort of taught our children to be safe, right? We've taught our children, to not express emotions or tell people how they're feeling as well, right? You know, I was raised that way. I get caught with my children sometimes when they're crying, saying, you know what, it's okay, stop crying, or why are you crying, or telling them not to express their anger. You can't do that when you're angry, or don't be angry about that, right? So there's part of that too, where we pass on this to, in our parenting, this idea of that you just don't show those emotions, right? you know um if they fall down playing a game, right, or they hurt themselves, right, the first thing, we kind of do, get back up, get back up, you can do it, right? Not that there's anything wrong with that, right? But just to I think balance that sometimes, and think about what we're teaching our children in terms of, you know the safety, how safe it is to express those emotions, right? And so sometimes I think that's where we can start is, in when we talk with children in our communities, in our care, whatever it is, giving them a safe place to express a range of all their emotions, right? You know, and then, often that gives practice to do it for ourselves, right? When we're feeling, you know, emotions, finding a place to safely express that for ourselves. I know for me, the first place that I could safely express, I think, some of my emotions and feelings was in a journal, right? And I still have clients who are like, absolutely not. I won't even write my thoughts down. I won't even write my feelings down. I'm too afraid, right? That someone will see it, someone will catch it, right? And that's a real thing, especially in our community, that someone might know what I'm feeling, that I'm afraid, that I'm angry, that I'm hurt, right? So, it's historical that we don't feel safe. And, I think, we can change the narrative by, how we teach children, but how we find little things in our own lives, whether it's a journal, if you're just going to write it first, whether it's, now people do voice memos, right? Where they talk about, just their feelings to yourself, right? I think first, if we can share or identify or name, as I said earlier, our feelings to ourselves, and we feel safe with ourselves, then often that can be the first step to sharing it with somebody else, whether it's a friend, whether it's a healthcare professional, or a family member. Um, but it's something that we intentionally have to think about in terms of sharing it with somebody, but also intentionally have to practice with ourselves, feeling safe with those feelings ourselves.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Before we go on, I want to say a big thank you to Chris A. I see that you're the first person on this show to use a super chat. It's a paid service just to donate to the cause, and I really appreciate that. It's the first time I'm seeing how it looks. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. All right. So if you guys have questions, please leave it there because we have like just maybe 1 minute to go. Leave it in the comment section. Latoya Belfon, she said, wow, the speaker has such a soothing voice. And that was what I was thinking as well. Like you can literally sing me a lullaby and I'm like, sleep off. Like that's really, that was what I was thinking because you have a voice that people want to listen to. So you're in the right you're in the right profession. That's so funny. Yeah, so my final question would be, when it comes to, I found out, I don't know about other Black people, but I noticed for people that are from like Africans, we're so bad with actually like taking pride in what we do. We're very, how do I explain it? It's not taking pride in what we do, but it's like we're very humble. So if we did something, for example, we'll say, instead of me to say, oh, I did this, I would say, oh, we did this. So I would want to say, okay, my team, because I don't want to not be seen as a team player. And it kind of affects us when we're looking for a job, because even in our resume, instead of saying, I did this, I created this, we're always putting, I supported, I assisted. And I was on a show where somebody, a motivational speaker, said we have to come out of that mindset, because at the end of the day, those people are not seeing it as humility. They're seeing it as, you're not a leader, you're a follower. If you keep saying, I assisted, I did, I supported, but you didn't say, I created, so I feel like that's, and I went to look at my resume, it kind of looks like that, because I don't want people to say, oh, you're pompous. And she was saying, no, you're not. That's why a lot of people that are from other communities will take the job and they know absolutely nothing. But you're always at the bottom, because that's how you sell yourself. That's how you see yourself. So we have to come out of that mindset. So I don't know if you've had like any kind of experience with that, that it is okay to talk about what you did with your shoulders high, and not try to be meek about it, not to be humble about it, because you're selling yourself.
Such a good point. And I think, to be honest, I'm still learning exactly that, Fikemi. I think it starts with, exactly what you said, just understanding the impact of the, what it is. It's internalized depression, right? And the idea that, what I think, what we're trying to do is not make ourselves stand out too much, because then, you know what if they attack me now, or what if they don't agree, or what if they don't see it that way. It's kind of like a what if, right? I did this, but I don't really want to say it, because what if you know they don't see it the same way, or what if whatever it is. And so I think it comes from the that internalized narrative of my, for lack of a better word, black product, isn't as valuable, as somebody else's, right? That worry sometimes that we have. And I think, I am still learning how to undo that a lot. I think at times it's, I use the mantra exactly that you said, that, what, the people who are looking for what I have, aren't gonna care. And and if that's okay with me. And I feel like, kind of, sometimes we have to be okay with people not being okay. And if they aren't, they're not okay, then that's okay. I'm gonna move on. There will be somebody else. There'll be somebody else. And so sometimes I think exactly what you're doing, talking to other people and other professionals, and learning how they market themselves, right? Because I think we have to unlearn some of this stuff, because some of it's, so like you said, it's ingrained in us so much that we automatically will say, we did this, right? And so sometimes I think we need some mentorship. Maybe we need some mentorship from other communities. We need some mentorship from people who've gone, farther than us or higher than us in our career, to help us change our language and change those thoughts about ourselves. So I'm still working on it myself. Great point.
Thank you so much. So that's all my questions for today. I know we've gone a little bit above the time, but the time went by so fast, and it was like a very impactful, very powerful session. I really enjoyed it. And I know a lot of people enjoyed, because they were leaving comments and messages and all of that. So thank you so, so much. I appreciate you coming on the show. So I'm just going to do a little bit of my, attendance, because I already said it. This is how we take attendance. You have to put your name in the comment. You have to rep your city, your country, where you're watching from. Is it Nigeria? And by the way, I was shortly before we came on live, I'm from Nigeria and I'm Yoruba. And I was teaching Tricia how to say good afternoon. I'm going to see if you remember in my language. So what does good afternoon like? Say it in my language. Let's see if you still remember.
Oh, Fikemi. Okay, I know it's Ikesan. Ikesan? Did I get it?
It's close, but you're gonna say it's E. You
E.
pronounce it as E.
Eh.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Eksan? Ekesan?
Ekason.
Ekasan. Okay. I,
Yeah,
you know
so
what?
you gotta. I'll give you a 8.5 because I had to remind you. 8.5 out of 10. So now you can tell people you understand Yoruba. Ekason.
Yes,
When you say good afternoon, Ekason.
Ekasan.
It means good afternoon. All right. So
Ekasan.
yeah,
So
you learned another
Ekasan.
language.
Ekasan to all the Nigerian fans out there.
That's so nice. So I'm just gonna go through the list and acknowledge people that was able to attend. Thank you so much to Tobin. I hope I'm not butchering that name. Tobin Cooper. Thank you so much to Chris A. Chef Bliss. She said she's from Nigeria. Um, Wahid, Miriam, thank you for always showing up. And Latoya Belfon from Quebec, Montreal, Quebec. Thank you so much for coming. And yeah, that's only the people that put their name. I know there's so many people online that I've been seeing, but they refuse to mark attendance. So this, as I said, is the finale for this season. Don't worry, we're coming back next season. We're going to be bigger and better. Just share this link out to your family, to your friends. If this was a really powerful session, and I couldn't have figured, thought of a better way to end the season. We can now all go and manage our emotions better and enjoy the summer, bask in the sun. If you want to tan, I can't tan because I'm very black already, but if you want to tan, go have sunbathing, enjoy. And if you already got your vaccines as well, I think you can travel now. So it's all good. It's all Gucci out there. So thank you so much to everybody that attended. I'm going to see you. I'm going to be announcing in another month or two when we're going to be coming back on. And I would have a really great lineup of speakers for you guys, and we can all learn from one another and continue to grow our community. So thank you so much and have a fantastic, fantastic summer.